Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm a level 1 chef.
Hi, I'm Rinku, and I'm a level 2 chef.
Hi, my name is Ayesha Nurdjaja. I'm the executive chef of Shuka restaurant, and I've been cooking professionally for 15 years.
This flatbread is actually the same pizza dough that I make to make pizza. It's like a pizza but without the sauce or cheese.
I'll be making parathas. These are Indian whole wheat flatbreads. Today's ones will be stuffed with potatoes. This recipe has been in my family for 3 generations.
Today we'll be making lahmacun. It's a Middle Eastern style pizza that has meat involved in it. Today we'll be using lamb. You'll definitely find it amongst the Armenian people, but you'll find it in a lot of places over the Levant. And this flatbread is aces.
All right, the first thing we're going to do is make our dough. Easy enough. I'm going to combine my lukewarm water with my active dry yeast.
What we want to do is take our milk and heat it up. What I'm going to do is mix the sugar in with the milk right now so that the sugar dissolves. So this milk is ready, and I'm going to pour it back into this cup, but I'm going to let it cool down a little bit. You want to make sure that the milk is not too hot because it will kill the yeast and stop it from blooming.
I'm going to use the whole packet. Here's why. You never know. You know, it's better to just yeast it up.
And now we're going to add the yeast. And I'm just going to give this a stir. And in about 5 minutes, it should start to bloom.
It truly is beauty in the yeast. And I'm actually going to put my olive oil in here.
What I have here is atta. This is whole wheat flour that's very finely ground. It's used in a lot of Indian flatbreads. It's used to give it a softer texture. I'm adding in all-purpose flour, just a little bit.
In this bowl, we're going to add our flour, our baking powder, and the salt.
Easy enough? Oh, not easy enough. There we go.
So what I'll be doing next is working in ghee, and this I'm working in with my hands to distribute it.
And I like to just mix this to get it started.
La-di-da.
You can use a food processor or a stand mixer for doing what I'm doing, but it's not quite as much fun. I'm adding in the water. You want to do this gradually because what you want with the dough is you want a dough that's pliable enough to roll, but not too wet.
Next up, we have our yogurt and then our olive oil. These 2 ingredients really ensure that the flatbread will stay moist and very soft. And as you can see, the yeast is starting to bloom. It has this little fuzzy coat on top. That's when you know it's ready to go. It's time to add the yeast.
All right, so I have my yeast water oil mixture here, and I'm just going to toss it in with my flour and start mixing it.
So we're gonna start this on slow, just to incorporate all of the ingredients together. So the reason why we use a dough hook is because it actually starts to stretch out the gluten in the flour.
So I'm just bringing my flour and water mixture together. What I'm doing now is I'm just gonna start kneading it a little bit, and then I'm gonna rest it for about 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna knead it again for about 3 more minutes, and then I'm gonna rest it for a few hours. And then I'm gonna bake it, and then I'm gonna eat it.
Your dough is done when it's formed together. Let this rest for about 30 minutes. What happens then is the gluten sort of relaxes. It makes your dough smooth and easy to work with.
Okay, so the dough is ready. You can see how clean the side of the bowl is because the dough has been worked and pulled off the side of the bowl. That's when you know it's really ready.
And now I'm going to give it 15 minutes to rest, and then I'm gonna come back and knead it again. So, sleep.
So I'm covering the dough. We let it rest for about 30 minutes.
20 minutes so it proofs. It should double in size.
I'm not the best kneader, but I'm not the worst kneader. You know, it gets the job done. So here I have a ball of dough. It's going to become 2 balls of dough. Or you can rest them in the refrigerator overnight and cling wrap them, which is what I'm gonna do. Basically, like it gives the yeast time to do its yeast thing, so it should be bigger by the time it comes back. Ah! Let me try that again. All right, so I'm just going to cover these in cling wrap. Great. Perfectly done with no errors. All right, I'm gonna let these rest for a few hours and then I'll be back.
Now we'll be making the pickled onions for the side. So let's get started. So I have my beetroot here. Using this to add color and a little bit of sweetness. And I like red onion, partly because of color, partly because they're a little bit sweeter. So I like to use cider vinegar because it's not too strong, but strong enough to pickle the onions. Shaking in a little bit of salt. So now we let these rest for about 15 minutes.
So while our dough is resting, we're gonna start with the lamb for the lahmacun. I'm gonna set this lamb aside and I'm gonna start to cut our vegetables. There is no technique here besides not cutting your finger off. We're gonna be using 4 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil to get this started. We're gonna put in a good splash of tomato paste, our cumin, black pepper, smoked paprika, and a little bit of chili flake. You can't have a dish with Ayesha without herbs. I'm gonna use a whole bunch of parsley here. Just use the leaves. I'm gonna add some salt and another little bit of olive oil and pop this lid on. That looks good.
So now we are going to get started making our filling. So these potatoes have been pre-cooked. You can either bake or microwave them. I prefer not boiling them. So I grate these potatoes. As you can see, they are very soft. Ultimately, you want them mashed.
So our lamb. So we're breaking the lamb apart. So when I add the vegetable, it will mix really easily. Okay, so I'm gonna mix this.
While my dough rests, I'm going to just prep my toppings for it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get some leaves off of this rosemary. I will give myself enough rosemary that if I'm like, wait, more rosemary, I have it ready to go. And then I'm just going to give it a little chop. This is what I call a tiny dish of rosemary. The next thing I'm going to do is chop some garlic. Hold on to your seats if you're worried about my knife skills. Have I ever injured anyone? Only myself and only a little.
So now I'm adding in my spices. So I toasted these spices. I have cumin, coriander, black pepper, and fennel. So you're all done. Next up, I have cayenne. This is courtesy my daughter. What I do, which is her modification, is I add in a little bit of finely chopped red onion, dried mango powder. I'm adding in cilantro. I lastly add in the salt.
All right, so olives. I'm gonna do some of these in half and some of them in quarters. And there you have it, toppings chopped.
You know your potatoes are done just right if you're able to mash this uniformly with the back of a spoon. So here's the filling.
So what I'm doing is pushing the meat against the bowl and then pushing down. And what that does is it's separating the lamb and allowing the mixture to really mix together. So this is the lamb for the lahmacun.
Here I have my beautiful pizza dough, look at that. The yeast did its little burpy thing, which is, I assume, how that works. Tiny creatures just burping forever until pizza dough gets bigger. I know science.
So now I've let my dough rest. It's smooth and supple. Now I can start shaping my parathas. I mean, what you want the dough to get to is a texture where, as you can see, I can play with it. It's sort of like Play-Doh.
I'm gonna take a little bit of flour and dust our table here. Put the dough right on it. I'm gonna roll this into a log so that I could kind of get uniform pieces when we cut into this. So after the dough is cut, I'm gonna roll this into a little ball.
So here's how I do it. I literally just like hand shape my pizza. I basically just let gravity help me shape it.
So the first thing we'll be doing is for every paratha, I'll be breaking balls about the same size. These are roughly the size of a lime.
When rolling dough, you wanna have your hand in the shape of the C. And what I'm doing is rolling the dough in between my thumb all the way to my pinky and back, using just the side of my hand that's on the table.
Yep, I'm just gonna put a little olive oil down on here. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's just not question this and do it. I should have shaped it on here so that it wouldn't stretch so much when I move it, but that's okay. I think it actually looks fine. I think it'll be fine. It'll be great. It'll be great.
So the first thing we do to shape these is I take one of the balls that I prepared. We add in some flour. I'm flattening this.
I take my rolling pin and start from the middle and I don't push down, I'm pushing away. Away. And then I turn the dough again. Again, away. And I'm gonna continue this motion until I get the bread to about 1/8 of an inch and give it a little bit of a hand stretch.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of like turn this into a little rectangle of dough, and then I'm gonna start decorating it. I might give it a little crust. So there, that's my little braided crust.
The beauties of these is that you don't want them to be perfect. They can be round, they could be oblong, as long as they're thin enough to get that nice crunch on the bottom after you're baking. Okay, so this feels good.
Great, okay, cool. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just get my toppings onto my little bread thingy. I'm just gonna sprinkle them. I'm just gonna sprinkle them and see how I feel. And I'm just sprinkling my garlic. Garlic goes everywhere on this pizza.
So now I'm doing the filling, and I'm filling it, leaving about 1/2 inch on the edges to allow me to seal it. And the dough is soft enough for me to do this with my hand. The good thing about working with this dough is that there is no yeast or anything else involved. However, the challenge there is you have to make sure that it's smooth and uniform, because it's not working with any other leavening. It's just working with how you're rolling it out and how you're stuffing.
You want this to be scantily just topped. You don't want the lamb to be clumped on top or really heavy. If you do that, then you won't have a crispy bottom. Is just put just enough lamb to cover the top of the dough. It really doesn't have much of a crust, so you really want to bring the lamb out all the way to the end.
I wonder if this is too many olives. I wonder if I'm going to eat all of these olives as soon as we stop filming. And the final step is to douse this sucker in olive oil. I probably should have done it before the toppings, but here we are. Yeah, let's say that's ready.
Now we are getting ready to roast and then fry the parathas.
Okay, so we have our lahmacun. So we're gonna get these in an oven at 400 degrees. They're gonna cook for about 8 minutes. What we're looking for is to get the dough around the edges nice and golden brown, and for the lamb to be cooked.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it in the oven. I'm gonna put it in the oven at hot, and I'm gonna leave it until cooked.
And we start on medium heat and may lower it later. You do not add any oil. And here you want to be patient. Don't rush it. Don't turn the paratha around before it's ready. So at this point, I'm giving it a turn. My first side has gotten a fair amount of brown spots. So now I'm getting ready to add the ghee to my paratha. So when you're adding the ghee, you want to hear that sizzle. That tells you that your skillet is the right temperature. So now that these parathas are all cooked, I'll show you how we plate them.
All right, my pizza bianca is out of the oven. It did take 18 minutes to cook, but I think it's looking really tasty. So, great.
So the lahmacun are out of the oven and they smell phenomenal. I cannot wait to eat them. But before that, we have to beautify them just a little bit.
So the first thing I'm gonna do is just start grinding some pepper onto here. Yeah, beautiful. I have my red pepper flakes, which I'm just going to sprinkle over my beautiful pizza here. I'm going nuts with the red pepper flakes.
So what you want to do is stack them one on top of each other. Top this with salted butter. I have natural yogurt here, which adds a little bit of tang. The roasted bell pepper chutney, because it adds a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of color.
And I'm gonna do the little drizzle of olive oil
on here.
on top.
And the last thing I'm gonna do is just sprinkle some flaky salt on here.
And now these are the pickled onions that we just made. See, they've gotten this nice, rich red color. And I'll bring it all together with some cilantro.
I'm gonna take some of this parsley and chop it. I'm gonna liberally just get some parsley on there. And then I'm gonna finish with a little bit of lemon zest. And I'm gonna cut a little sliver of this lemon to squeeze on. I think we're ready to eat.
And the next thing I'm gonna do is just cut myself a piece of this thing. How big is everyone else's pieces? This is my pizza bianca.
These are my aloo parathas.
This is my lahmacun.
So now is the fun part. It's time to taste the parathas.
I'm not faint of heart here. We're not using utensils. This is a rip moment.
This is good.
Delicious. So good.
It's really good. I don't know what it is, but it's good.
This turned out really good. I'm happy with this. The filling was soft and very flavorful.
That is incredible. You get that little soft bite, but then you get all the spices of the lamb, a little zing from the tomato, and that smell of lemon and parsley at the end. This truly is to die for.
Almost every cuisine includes flatbread. It's the original bread. Flatbreads are baked quickly, can be made with or without yeast, chewy or crisp, and made with any type of grain. Let's see how each of our chefs made theirs. Emily made pizza dough with all-purpose flour and dry active yeast.
Love the smell of beer, but don't want to drink it. Yeast.
Yeasts are small single-celled microorganisms that ferment sugars to make carbon dioxide gas to leaven grain-based flours. Rinku made a filled flatbread called aloo paratha. She used mostly whole wheat flour.
See how much fun I'm having?
Unlike refined flour, like all-purpose, which is made only from the starchy components in a wheat kernel, whole grain flour contains three major parts of a kernel of wheat. The bran, which is the outer fibrous protective coating for the kernel, the germ, which is the smallest part and higher in enzymes and lipids because it has nutrients the plant needs for quick growth, and the endosperm, which contains the starches and the gluten-forming proteins, glutenin and gliadin. It's more nutrient-dense than refined flour and darker in color from the bran. Rinku added ghee to her flour mixture.
I call it butter on steroids.
Ghee is butter that's been heated to evaporate water and concentrate the lipids. Milk solids are also removed so it's clear, golden deliciousness. Ayesha made lahmacun, based on lafa, which is a Middle Eastern flatbread. As a level 3 chef, she was smart to proof her yeast and make sure it was alive before adding it to her dough. Proofing, or proving in other countries, means that yeast is allowed to ferment sugars and release carbon dioxide. Once rehydrated in warm milk with a little sugar, the yeast ferments the sugar and produces carbon dioxide. You can see the bubbles forming, so you know the yeast is active and will leaven your dough.
I'm sure you want me to say something right about now, right?
Emily made 2 round portions and covered them to prevent a crust from forming while her dough rests.
Scientific process.
Resting is important because it allows yeast to produce carbon dioxide and for complete hydration of proteins, which makes the dough more supple and elastic and easier to handle and roll.
So other chefs, watch out.
Rinku rested her dough twice, first as one mass for about 30 minutes, and then divided her dough into uniform balls and rested it again. Ayesha proofed her dough once for about 30 minutes to allow the yeast to produce carbon dioxide, and then divided it into 5-ounce portions and rolled and stretched the dough thin so that it can trap the carbon dioxide bubbles and give a fluffy quality to her lafa. Rinku used a cast iron skillet to cook her paratha, which was preheated at a high temperature. She added it directly to the pan and left it there for a few minutes, which was long enough for the Maillard reaction to yield brown pockets on her parathas. This method is heating and cooking by conduction through physical contact, first from the burner to her pan and then from the pan to her dough. In essence, one molecule transfers heat to another molecule next to it and so on. Her use of conduction helped crisp her paratha.
But it needs a little bit of practice and a lot of love.
Emily and Ayesha baked their flatbreads in a hot oven. A very hot oven is essential in order to create the steam that'll puff up quickly and form air pockets within.
Which makes it really crispy and delicious.
Ovens use radiant heat or electromagnetic wave. The slower radiant heating method allows the yeast in Emily and Ayesha's bread time to spring. Each of our chefs made distinctive and delectable flatbreads with flavor profiles and techniques from all over the world. Next time you're in the mood for a flatbread for lunch, dinner, or snack, we hope you'll take some tips from our 3 inventive chefs.